by which some people are trying to produce anti-anthropic behaviors who are producing what I call the second time of the doubly epochal redoubling, creating a new stage of noises, what is called by Heidegger a new epoch, as a response to a phase shift provoked by a previous exosomatic shock. In such a case, we should say that noesis is exosomatization. It's in its complete cycle. Such a cycle produces local convergences, metastabilizing a local negantropy, itself based on local anti-anthropic behaviors, those called mystic by Bergson. Such anti-anthropic behaviors as they produce in ethnic communities shamans, in imperial communities scribes, in political communities philosophers, in monotheistic communities priests, in capitalist communities what? Engineers? Managers? Calculators? No, nothing. They destroy anti-anthropy, and this is our problem. Are producing bifurcations through times which start with dreams, which dreams that are first archaeoneric. I say archaeoneric because, for example, you have here in China the flying dragon. And here it is a famous Icarus myth in Greece, etc. But everywhere in the world you have this fantasy, flying. Now such a fantasy can become the dream, the daydream of someone that is an artist. And this daydream production of this artist, that is the operator of the four causes we talked about before, can transform the reality of what I call a complex exorganism. I came with, in China, in Taiwan, with such an object. Not this one, but this is the first plane. But another one, more efficient, of course, more fast, but it is the same. But this came from this, almost 5 centuries before, and this comes from this. This is what I call the faculty for dreaming. That is, for me, the basis of reason. And the question is here that from what I call a simple exorganism. A simple exorganism is an organism with exosomatic organs. You and me, we are simple exorganisms. We create together complex exorganisms. For example, today, this meeting, it's a complex exorganism, but this university is a complex exorganism. Taiwan is a complex exorganism. And the question is always how to produce common dreams for opening a future. Not civil war, but common peace as a result of dreaming. Now, what about some questions like what is described as a process of concretization by Simonon? Concretization being functional integration, for instance, of a thermic motor. I say that in order to introduce a discussion with Yuk Hui concerning what he calls technodiversity. And if we want to claim, as he says, that technology is always diverse, at the end, how shall we deal with this concept of concretization, of the process of concretization of Simonon, who says that there is a convergence, a universal convergence of machinery, for example. What become what he calls also, Simonon, associated milieux, not only in the sense of the famous gimbal turbine that was presented 3 days ago in Taipei by Yuk Hui, but also as reticulated techno-geographic milieus of networking and social networking, because this is a new kind of associated milieu, where if you had here the water that is a natural element of geography becoming a function of the machinery, now it is you as and me as human resource what is called by Heidegger Gestand, that becomes a function of the system of the platforms. Here appears the question of technical tendencies. What is claimed by André Leroy-Gourhan is that technology appears under a double and contradictory condition. First, in this book, there is a composition of laws of physics and laws of biophysiology that produce the trend toward an optimized point of convergence, which is what is called by Simondon the technical lineage, the lignée technique, in this book. Second, there is a localization of this tendency imposing a counter-tendency. The technical tendency has a counter-tendency. That is the one coming from the complex exorganism, for example, Taiwan, or this group, or Europe, etc., as it is created by an internal milieu, in the sense of Claude Bernard transformed by Leroy-Gourhan, which is also what I call the noetic necromass, of also the exosomatic humus, for which, for example, a library is a good instance. What do I mean by noetic necromass? Most of the people who are in this book, the authors, they died, but they are still alive for their thoughts. If they are in the library, they will reintegrate, they will be reincarnated by scholars like you, for example, and etc., etc. And this is like the necromass of biomass. You know, you need humus for producing life. This is what is explained by Vernadsky at the beginning of the 20th century. But you need also a noetic necromass to produce geometry, philosophy, and future. So, this is a good example of necromass, but this one also is a very good example. A city is a necromass. You know, it is a space for memory. And this is the reason for which we visited yesterday the palace of China, the treasures of China. And this is the memory of China. And it is also in the forest. You have a necromass. You cannot see it because you are not hunters like those. But they have their, for example, what Simondon calls their key points. This is a key point. This is the most important one, the Everest. But on the key points, you have generally also tombs, what I call tertiary tensions, that creates what is called by Yuk cosmotechnics. So I would love to continue on that, but I must stop. I was extremely long. Thank you very much for your patience, and I give the floor to my friend Yuk Hui.
Conceptually very dense and intense speech. When you projected the picture of those dragon-like flying machine, an association just comes to me. Goya's painting, when reason went sleep, the background.
Exactly.
Okay, so now we move to our second paper, second speech.
We should have a break for the audience, for the introduction. We should have like 5 break.
Okay, let's take a 10 minutes break and come back by 10 to 5. Okay?
这个去买的吗？
安琪姐，生日快乐！